Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna. Good morning or good evening, depending on where you are in the world, to the Saturday morning Bhagavad-gītā As It Is reading and discussion with His Grace Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, and we hope that he is feeling better today. He had a terrible incident, but he's carrying on with our work, and we really appreciate that. Thank you, Prabhu. I hurt myself like that, not as severely as him, but it is painful. But after all, we all understand that this is some kind of karma, some kind of experience, of a learning experience. And today, I was sent an email from him of somebody asking a question about something I had said. Oh, yeah. So I want to compliment everybody on how astute you are. It's very, very interesting. I mean, think about it, Ram Raghava. We have over 2,000 hours of broadcasts. And if we say something that might be off-center for someone or colored, they pick it up. They immediately, and think how many words are spoken, even in a discussion that we have. Thousands of words. And if you say one word that is maybe not clear, this person sent an email to Yaśodā-nandana about the Ritvik system, because I had commented, we are not Ritviks. Oh, well, quite interesting. Do you have that? Can you show it on the screen, Prabhu? Oh, look at that. Look at how brilliant he is. No, that's the that's the explanation from Prabhupada on, oh, is that it? And one of the translations mentioned that the PDA group does not, thank you, does not identify with, among them he named ISKCON and the Ritviks. And I was really surprised to see the Ritviks on that list. I actually thought, you were Ritviks. Why did you say that? So we'll start with that. And Prabhu, I don't know who you are, but that's okay. I'm going to give the answer. The Ritvik system is not a name for devotees that use that system for initiation. This name, Ritvik, or Ram Raghava, it was also, the term came from one of our godbrothers, Ritvikism. Ritvikism, like Hinduism. So we were labeled by him, because he is an initiating guru, a fake one in the ISKCON movement. And he used the term as a derogatory term to describe people that weren't following the bogus zonal guru acharya system. Oh, yeah. So he said, it's Ritvikism. And then they started to call us Ritviks. Like if you go to an ISKCON temple, then people come up to you, they go, are you a Ritvik? Right? Are you a Ritvik? Oh, excuse me. Oh, stay away from that guy. He's a Ritvik. This is a total misunderstanding of the term Ritvik. Ritvik is a system for initiation. And I was just looking at our invitation to our classes. Now, if you look at the invitation to our classes, all the rules and requirements to be a participant, you get an idea of how we designed this program and the mission that we have to protect Prabhupada's legacy for our membership. It doesn't say anything about Ritvik. Not one word. It says chant your rounds, come to the classes. If you're a member of the Gaudiya Math or initiated by one of those gurus, then you have to get permission from us. If you're a member of ISKCON and you are with one of these ISKCON bogus gurus, completely bogus, absolutely. And we won't talk about that right now. But the point is, if you want it, then you have to get permission from us. Yes, because we don't want that type of hypocrisy in our group. Sahajiism, that's different than Ritvikism. So, like that, the Ritvik system of initiation is based on Vani Vapu. That's what it is. And we follow that principle, that Prabhupada is still alive in sound. And this was something we learned from him personally, not from somebody else. If you recall, I've told devotees here that I was a president of the ISKCON Toronto temple for 11 years. This was actually the longest, back then I was the longest standing president in the history of the movement, because a lot of guys came and went. So we had a system that Prabhupada would tell us to supervise the new members that joined the temple. And the president was representing Srila Prabhupada in the temple. Yes, very much so. That was Prabhupada's system. And we would monitor with our other godbrothers, not just myself, but our team of godbrothers. We had good people, Murli Krishna, Trilokanath, all different types of really good, sincere devotees. And we would review, and then we'd hear the chatter about each devotee going around in the temple, and we could get an impression of the kind of person, how they chanted their rounds. Huh? Remember how they really chant good rounds, and how they took up their service. If they were cleaning, they were excellent in mopping, or if they're in the kitchen cooking the milk sweets for Kirchor Gopinath, we would comment them or review that. If they went out on Sankirtan and they sold books and collected donations for the temple, we would review that. Oh, good. If they came to the evening program and chanted enthusiastically in the kirtan and listened to the Bhagavad-gītā class, then everybody got an impression of them as how serious they were to take up Krishna consciousness. And then we would recommend them to Srila Prabhupada based on that. I'd send a letter. I'd like these people to get initiated. And then Prabhupada would send us a letter back saying, okay, I accept, based on our recommendation. He didn't meet Prabhupada personally, but through his disciples, people were reviewed. Yes. And on the basis of their review, Prabhupada would accept them as a disciple through Vani. And Prabhupada was Vapu. He was personally present with us, so he was guiding, absolutely. And I have many stories about that, even in terms of my initiation in New York City, when Prabhupada spoke the Gayatri mantra in my ear. But we won't go into that today. That'll be at another date. But nonetheless, this system of initiation was done this way. And in this way, we would perform an initiation for that person on behalf of Prabhupada and give him a name sent by Prabhupada, and the beads were sent by Prabhupada to us, and I would do the fire sacrifice, give the name, give the beads, and we represented our guru, not become guru. Very interesting, become guru. So you want to eat me? That's what's happened. That the mouse wants to eat the guru, or the mouse becomes a tiger and then wants to eat the guru. Well, this is the business of these ISKCON gurus, that they want to eat the guru. They want to be guru. And I'm watching some lectures, Ram Raghava, recently, someone speaking, who was a nice godbrother of ours. He sold lots of books, but very flawed. Because when we are forensic, just like when people ask us questions or you send an email, you're forensic. So we are too. I sent to Romeshwar, a godbrother, I said, just see how bogus this preaching is. Why? Because everything they do is to make the people that come to them, their disciples, not Prabhupada disciples. So Ritvik means you initiate the person on behalf of Srila Prabhupada, and they become a Srila Prabhupada disciple. Therefore, we are the Prabhupada Disciples Association. Is that clear? And everyone, the people want to call me a Ritvik. You're a Ritvik. Okay. Well, you don't know what it means. We're initiating on behalf of our spiritual master who is present in his Vani incarnation, and you think it has to be Vapu with some of these fallen, deviant, so-called gurus in ISKCON. We're not part of that. That's enough. The difference, the second question. What was the second question, Ramaraga? It was about these other Ritvik groups. I'm really surprised to see the Ritviks on that list. I actually thought you were Ritviks. What's wrong with the Ritvik philosophy? Well, nothing. But sometimes some of these people that are claiming to initiate people on behalf of Prabhupada are deviant as well. Yes, they are. And we're not here to point that out so much in our classes. But for example, some of these groups, they sell the edited books of Srila Prabhupada. Yes, they do. They even write their own version of the Bhagavad-gītā. Yes, they do. And they set up their own organizations, and they go and sit on platforms and have their feet washed in other kinds of ceremonial activity, and it's something similar to the ISKCON bogus guru system. Now, what is it, the responsibility of everyone? You decide. If you want to go with the people from Singapore, we had a person that was with us. And he did some good service. And then all of a sudden we get news, oh, he got initiated by some guy in Singapore. I don't know who this guy is, to be honest. I never heard of him. But he's running a system there and whatever. Go ahead and see if you find that you're getting the same type of information, the same type of enthusiasm to protect Prabhupada's legacy, and including the mission that we're carrying out from them. That's your choice. Go ahead. But we have a specific mission, and we have a specific philosophy and a specific way to initiate. If you want to be initiated, we have a system that you have to follow for at least 6 months so that we have a chance to monitor your behavior and see how serious you are about initiation. If you're not that serious, then don't worry, still come to the classes. It's not that the prerequisite is everyone has to be initiated as a Prabhupada disciple. The main thing is this, that you have to be committed to Srila Prabhupada as the guru, the bona fide spiritual master. And in due course of time, if the desire evolves in you to become disciple, then you can come forward. And then, for example, we have a very good group of people in Mexico, Krishna Kishore and his wife, and their assembly of Prabhupada disciples. And they've been in all these groups. They were in England, they left that, and they were in this group and that group, all claiming to be following Srila Prabhupada. They left them all. They're working with us, and we're working with them in the same way. For example, last time I was here, or 2 times before, we helped them get initiation for 3 people they recommended. We have a couple in Venezuela that are interested in initiation. Oh, okay. Now, I suggested to Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, of course, and to them, that they take over and review them because they speak that language. And they know, because they're very committed Prabhupada disciples themselves, you review them, and if you give the recommendation that they are qualified, then we'll go ahead, provide the name, and chant on the beads. They brought their beads here. I chanted the beads for them. And we went ahead and initiated those people. They have many, many Prabhupada disciples who are using that system. So I hope that that clarifies everything, and that Ritvikism, that slang word that Hridayananda made up, is a reflection of his mentality. No neck beads, no danda, no japa beads, no tilak. I dare you, Hridayananda, you go to Prabhupada back in 1973 and show up in the room and see how he would treat you. Huh? If anybody knows, and we do, the way Prabhupada was strict with his disciples, he would not tolerate this for a second. And Prabhupada told him, this academic career that you have is a mistake. Don't do it. And he went ahead anyway. Yes. Disobey the orders of the spiritual master. And that's been going on for a long time. That's one section of the opening. Now, number 2. I've got quite a few things to discuss. I just want to touch upon this. How evil people can be. It's very tragic. I was reading about, on Facebook, about this conflict between Pakistan and India, where some Indian soldiers, young men, were captured by some Pakistani people, and they inflicted the most horrific punishment on them. complete torture. Tragic, very tragic. It's actually shocking how human beings could be so evil and demoniac. So remember this, we were in the Kali Yuga and things are very disturbed, to say the least. And the sinful activities that people perform collectively, karmically, they're being inflicted on living entities, their fellow human beings. So people are evil. Yes, very evil. And they do evil things. And the majority of people are demons. They're eating meat. If you went to a factory farm and saw how they produce chickens, and that's what they do in America, they produce billions of chickens, and it's horrific. Same with the cattle, the cows. The factory farms are a reflection of the demoniac times that we're in and the collective karmic situation that everyone must suffer because of that. So Kali Yuga is a serious period in history, and we're right in the middle of it. And disinformation, indoctrination seem to be part and parcel of it. The International Society for Indoctrination, brainwash cults, that's what it is. Remember, Raghava, I had a chance to debate Ted Patrick. Many of you may not know who he was, but he had a business to deprogram devotees. Oh yeah. And he came to Toronto, he kidnapped one of our members, Rudrani Devi Dasi, and stole her. It was a big story in Canada. Hundreds and hundreds of newspaper articles, TV shows I did with some celebrity persons who interviewed us on TV. And so it was quite a controversial thing. But the real point of it is that brainwashing has been going on in the ISKCON group by our own God brothers. And people are misled. They have disinformation and they get angry and they react. It's dangerous. It can be. We had a situation, I'll finish up, I apologize. I was going to go about I've got another section, maybe we'll meet it tomorrow, read it. It's on the Gaudiya Math and how Prabhupada dealt with his situation back then. But at any rate, it's a very dangerous situation that we are in, and we know that. And in the past, when the devotees were more fanatical, like Keith Ham and Radhanath and the other people in New Vrindavan, they actually killed one of their godbrothers, Sulochan. So don't think that this doesn't go on. It's very serious. We're going to move forward with our program. And once again, we want to thank everybody for coming to it. And today we have a very interesting section from the Bhagavad-gītā on Krishna's and Prabhupada's purport that we're going to discuss with our godbrother Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu. So let's go ahead with the chanting of Jaya Radha Madhava, and then we'll have the reading and discussion led by His Grace. Haribol.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Yaśodā-nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yaśodā-nandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Bana Yamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yaśodā-nandana Dāsa Yaśodā-nandana Dāsa Yamuna Tira Banachari Yamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Musvat Paramahansa Parivrajaga-ācārya Sattva Small Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupāda ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava ki Jai Nāma-ācārya Sri Haridas Thakur ki Jai Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhakti ki Jai Sri Radha Krishna Mokh Gopinath Sam Khund Radha Khund Girivardhan ki Jai Vrindavan Dham ki Jai Navadvip Dham ki Jai Ganga Mai की जाए जमुना माई की जाए गुरु द्वारका धाम की जाए स्वामी तो भक्तविंद की जाए ऑल ग्लोरी टू देयर स्मिल ऑल ग्लोरी टू देयर स्मिल थैंक यू वेरी मच
ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. O my Lord Sri Krishna, the son of Vasudeva, the all-pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you from Srimad Bhagavatam 1:1:1. Narayanam namaskrityam Narayanam namaskrityam Naram cheva narottamam Naram cheva narottamam Devim saraswatim vyasam Devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam mudirayet Tato jayam mudirayet. One should utter the means of conquest, Srimad Bhagavatam and Srimad Bhagavad-gītā, after offering respectful obeisances, 1. To the personality of Godhead, Narayana. 2. To the Narayana Rishi, who is the supermost human being. 3. To the Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning. Then 4. To Srila Vyasadeva, the author, from Srimad Bhagavatam 1-4. Welcome everyone to this discussion and reading on the subject matter of Bhagavad-gītā. As we do every week, we will be reciting a few selected verses introduced by Srila Prabhupada himself in 1966 in New York when he began his preaching program. we invite you to participate with us. Om Ajnanatirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuranmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. I was born in the darkest ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. Sri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Svapadantikam. When will Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada, who has established within this material world the mission to fulfill the desire of Lord Chaitanya, give me shelter under his lotus feet? Vandeham Shri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Sri Rupam Sagar Jatam Sahagunara Gunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahaguna Lalita Sri Vishakanvitam Scha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master and unto the feet of all Vaishnavas. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of Srila Rupa Goswami, along with his elder brother Sanatan Goswami, as well as Raghunath Das and Raghunath Bhatta, Gopala Bhatta, and Srila Jiva Goswami. I offer my respectful obeisances to Lord Krishna Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, along with Advaita-Acharya, Gadadhar, Srivas, and other associates. I offer my respectful obeisances to Srimati Radharani and Sri Krishna, along with their associates Sri Lalita and Vishaka. E Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpati Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostuti. Oh, my dear Krishna, you are the friend of the distressed and the source of creation. You are the master of the gopis and the lover of Radharani. I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Suti Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. I offer my respects to Radharani, whose bodily complexion is like molten gold, and who is the queen of Vrindavana. You are the daughter of King Vrishabhanu, and you are very dear to Lord Krishna. Vanchakalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindubhya evacha patitanam pavanibhyo vaishnavibhyo namo namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord, who can fulfill the desires of everyone, just like desire trees, and who are full of compassion for the fallen souls. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. It should be noted that this particular program is being conducted on the basis of the 1972 original Macmillan edition, the non-adulterated, non-modified, non-changed, non-adulterated version, and all synonyms, translations, and purports are from His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda, Founder-Ācārya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, also known as the Krishna Consciousness Movement. Today we will be reading from chapter 13, text number 13. Nyayam yattat pravakshyami yat nyatvam anadimat param brahma nasatan nasaduchyati. Nyayam, knowable, yat, that, tat, which, pravakshyami, I shall now explain, yat, which, yatva, knowing, amritam, nectar, ashnute, taste, anadi, beginningless, matparam, subordinate to me, Brahma, spirit, na, neither, sat, cause, tat, that, na, nor, asat, effect, uchyate, is called. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. I shall now explain the knowable, knowing which you will taste the eternal. This is beginningless, and it is subordinate to me. It is called Brahman, the spirit, and it lies beyond the cause and effect of this material world. Purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. The Lord has explained the field of activities and the knower of the field. He has also explained the process of knowing the knower of the field of activities. Now he's explaining the knowable, both the soul and the supersoul, respectively. By knowledge of the knower, both the soul and the supersoul, one can relish the nectar of life. As explained in the second chapter, the living entity is eternal. This is also confirmed here. There's no specific date at which the jiva was born, nor can anyone trace out the history of Jivatma's manifestation from the Supreme Lord. Therefore, it is beginningless. The Vedic literature confirms this. Najayate mrijayate vavipaschit. The knower of the body is never born and never dies, and he is full of knowledge. The Supreme Lord is also stated in the Vedic literature as Pradhana Kshetarnyapatir Guneshaha. The Supreme Lord, as the Supersoul, is the chief knower of the body, and he is the master of the three modes of material nature. In the Smriti it is said, Dasa Bhuto Hare Reva Nanyasve Sakadachana. The living entities are eternally in the service of the Supreme Lord. This is also confirmed by Lord Chaitanya in his teaching. Therefore, the description of Brahman mentioned in this verse is in relation to the individual soul, and when the word Brahman is applied to the living entity, it is to be understood that he is Vijnanam Brahma, as opposed to Ananta Brahma. Ananta Brahma is the Supreme Brahman, personality of Godhead. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shwanyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Bhakti Siddhanta Shishyaya Bhaktivedanta Namine Prasannaya Prashantaya Tasmai Gurave Namaha. Bhagavad Vandana Kadyam Guru Vandana Purvakam Kshiram Sharkara Yuktam Kadatehi Visheshatah Adadana Strinam Danteridam Yache punaha punaha Srimadrupa padam bhoja dhulisyam janma janmani amsho bhagavato smyaham sadadaso asmi sarvata tat kripa pikshako nityam tat prishta satkaromi svam Hare Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So these topics of the relationship between the living entity and the Supreme Personality of God are very important to understand. As we have heard many times from Srila Prabhupada, there's a class of philosophers or impersonalists, also known as Mayavadis, who equate the position of the individual living entity, the Jivatma, with the Paramatma, or the Supreme Soul, or between the individual Brahman and the Ananta Brahman, or the Supreme Brahman, Param Brahma. It's interesting when Krishna begins his instruction to Arjuna in the Bhagavad-gītā in chapter number 2, in text number 12, he explains very nicely the exact position of the living entity. Bhagavad-gītā chapter 2, text number 12. Natvevaham jatunasam natvam dheme janadipaha nacheva nabhavishyamaha sarvevayam ataparam. Never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be. Now, when we study the purport given by Srila Prabhupada, I just want to bring your attention here. We'll read this. In the Vedas, in the Kathopanishad, as well as in the Shvetashvatara-upanishad, it is said that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the maintainer of innumerable living entities in terms of their different situations according to individual work and reaction of work. That Supreme Personality of God, it is also by his plenary portions alive in the heart of every living entity. Only saintly persons who can see within and without the same Supreme Lord can actually attain to perfect and eternal peace. Nityu nityanam chetanas chetananam meku bahunam yuvedadhati kaman tamatmastam yenupasyanti dhiraste sham shanti shasvati netaresham. From Kathopanishad 2:13. The same Vedic truth given to Arjuna is given to all persons in the world who pose themselves as very learned, but factually have but a poor fund of knowledge. The Lord says clearly that he himself, Arjuna, and all the kings who are assembled on the battlefields are eternally individual beings, and that the Lord is eternally the maintainer of the individual living entities, both in their conditioned as well as in their liberated situation. When we see the next paragraph, Srila Prabhupada explains the Mayavadi theory that after liberation, the individual soul, separated by the covering of Maya or illusion, will merge into the impersonal Brahman and lose its individual existence is not supported herein by Lord Krishna, the supreme authority, nor is the theory that we only think of individuality in the conditioned state supported herein. Krishna clearly says herein that in the future also the individuality of the Lord and others, as it is confirmed in the Upanishads, will continue eternally. This statement of Krishna is authoritative because Krishna cannot be subject to illusion. If individuality is not a fact, then Krishna would not have stressed it so much, even for the future. The Mayavadi may argue that the individuality spoken of by Krishna is not spiritual, but material. Even accepting the argument that the individuality is material, then how can one distinguish Krishna's individuality? Krishna affirms his individuality in the past and confirms his individuality in the future also. He has confirmed his individuality in many ways. An impersonal Brahman has been declared to be subordinate to him. Krishna has maintained spiritual individuality all along. If he's accepted as an ordinary conditioned soul in individual consciousness, then his Bhagavad-gītā has no value as authoritative scripture. A common man with all the 4 defects of human frailty is unable to teach that which is worth hearing. The Gita is above such literature. No mundane book compares with the Bhagavad-gītā. When one accepts Krishna as an ordinary man, the Gita loses all importance. In other words, Prabhupada is very clearly explaining systematically the difference between the living entity and the Lord, between us and God. This Mayavadi philosophy has been declared by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, Mayavadi Bhashya Shunale Hoy Sarvanas. If one becomes victimized by this Mayavadi philosophy, this impersonal nonsense philosophy, then sarvanas, everything finished. His spiritual understanding, his spiritual life completely finished. Prabhupada was referring in this purport that Krishna is the support of the impersonal Brahman. We see in chapter 15 of Bhagavad-gītā, Krishna says, Brahmano hi pratishtaham. Pratishtaham means that the impersonal Brahman is depending upon me. It is a manifestation from Krishna. It is not superior to Krishna. Now, this is a very important point to understand because Mayavadi philosophy is everywhere. Prabhupada was especially concerned when he came to the Western countries every day. We sing this shloka, Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. That you are preaching Gauravani Pracharine. You are preaching the message of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the Western countries because it is infected with this nirvishesha, this voidism and impersonalism. And this is a very dangerous point. We see when we preach to many devotees, they're infected with this impersonalism. And one of the first symptoms of impersonalism that the Mayavadis present is they misrepresent what the Vaishnavas say. They misquote the Vaishnavas. That's the first thing. Vishwakarma Prabhu was alluding to some comment that had been made by some devotees mentioning the word Ritvikism. Where did Srila Prabhupada ever use that word Ritvikism? It does not exist. It's a fabrication. It's a concoction. It's a made-up pejorative term that has been invented by those who have deviated from Srila Prabhupada's instruction. They have invented this term to demonize devotees that want to follow Srila Prabhupada's exact instructions with regards to his teachings and initiation. You can look all over the world, all over the literature, there is no such word as Ritvikism. But they don't think very clearly, do they? They invent a term that has no place in Prabhupada's teachings, that Srila Prabhupada himself never used, that is nowhere found in the Vedas or Vedic literature. The word Ritvik is found, not Ritvikism. These people are absolutely amazing by their depth of ignorance of Prabhupada's own statements. When Prabhupada used the term initiation or initiated, there are many, many statements by Srila Prabhupada about this term. It's very important to understand the spectrum and the various terms that Srila Prabhupada uses when he discusses the term of initiation. In Sanskrit, the word is diksha. Diksha is used in the Bhakti Sandarbha of Jiva Goswami Prabhupada and quoted by Srila Prabhupada himself in the Nectar of Instruction. Let me give the exact Sanskrit term so we can be very clear, so those who are steep in their political propaganda can get a chance to be educated as to how Srila Prabhupada explains initiation. Divyam jnanam yato dadyat kuryat papasya sankshayam tasmad dikshiti saproktas deshikes tatvako videi. Prabhupada explains in the Nectar of Instruction by quoting this verse that initiations means divyam jnanam, to receive the transcendental knowledge from the Acharya. And that transcendental knowledge, kuryat papasya sankshayam, the karma, the negative karma for millions of years is destroyed by the transcendental knowledge, divyam jnanam, that is given by the Acharya. Therefore, tasmat dikshiti saprokte, that great learned Vakovid, deshika is tattva kovid, those who understand the Siddhanta, they say that this is the meaning of initiation. Oh, thank you, Prabhu. Here's the exact translation from His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. One does not have to undergo initiation or execute the activities required before initiation. One simply has to vibrate the holy name with his lips. Thus, even a man in the lowest class, Chandala, can be delivered. Purport by His Divine Grace. Srila Jiva Goswami explains Diksha in his Bhakti Sandarbha 283. Divyam jnanam yato dadyat kuryat papasya sankshayam tasmad dikshiti saprokta deshikaistatako vidai. Diksha is the process by which one can awaken his transcendental knowledge and vanquish all reaction caused by sinful activity. A person expert in the study of the revealed scriptures knows this process as Diksha. The regulative principles of Diksha are explained in the Hari Bhakti Vilas 2, 3, 4, and the Bhakti Sandarbha 283, as stated, Dvijatvam anupetanam svakarma dhyayanadishu yatadikara nasta yaschopanayadanu tatra tradikshitanam tu mantra devarchanadishu nadikaro astyata kuryad atmanam shiva samstutam. Even though born in a Brahmin family, one cannot engage in Vedic rituals without being initiated and having a sacred thread. Although born in a Brahmin family, one becomes a Brahmana only after initiation and the sacred thread ceremony. Unless one is initiated as a Brahmana, one cannot worship the holy name properly. Now, what is important with this, we do know that there's many statements of Srila Prabhupada where one devotee approached Srila Prabhupada. This was found in an old Bhakti Guided magazine, where one devotee approached Srila Prabhupada saying that he wanted to be initiated, that he was following 16 rounds, and had followed the 4 regulative principles for some time. And Prabhupada said, yes, that is your real initiation. My touch is only a formality. Now, we all know Prabhupada was being humble. He was being very modest. His touch is never just a formality. But the point is that Prabhupada never explained initiation simply in terms of throwing bananas into the fire. The ceremony of initiation is nice, it's important, but the process of initiation is what we're talking about. As explained by Vishwakarma Prabhu, when he was explaining his role as a temple president in Toronto, Ontario, Canada for many years, Srila Prabhupada designated, let's review the historical facts that took place during Prabhupada's manifested presence for those who conveniently forget or who suffer from historical amnesia. Now, we're not going to go so far to say that they suffer from rectocranial inversion. We're not going to offend them, but it comes dangerously close to that. Initiation is not just throwing ghee into the fire. Initiation is just like what Prabhupada explains in his books. The ceremony of initiation many times were conducted. The formalities of the initiation, the chanting on the beads, the choosing of the name of the new initiate, the initiation ceremony of self was approved by Prabhupada to be performed by different temple presidents, different GBCs, different sannyasis, different older devotees. This was well known. This is an historical fact. All that Prabhupada did in 1977 is continue the process without changing the process. Prabhupada remained the Acharya, the Divyam Jnanam Acharya, the one who always gives the perfect, pure, transcendental knowledge. He's still doing that today for those whose ears are opened. All Prabhupada did was choose some representative to carry on that process. He would remain the Acharya, giving the transcendental knowledge, but many do not accept that. Some devotee recently asked me, well, why is it that they can't understand that? Well, it's very simple. Personal ambition. They're ambitious for power, for prestige, for profit, adoration, and distinction. Therefore, it clouds their intelligence or whatever is left of it. How else could these people claim that Prabhupada was just a worker for their corporation, a worker for hire? How much brain damage have they sustained? If one does not carefully hear Srila Prabhupada's statements, he will never understand his teachings. As part of this discussion, I know Ram Raghava knows this well, Vijay Pandit, Krishna Katha, Bhakti and Veronica in Italy, and many people here, our good friend Nila Shyama, we've discussed that statement from Srila Prabhupada in a letter in July of 1970. As soon as there is personal motivation, it is not possible to understand our Krishna conscious philosophy. This has nothing to do with how many years somebody spent with Prabhupada, of whether he came in 1966 or 67, whether he received 75 letters from Prabhupada, whether he was a GBC sannyasi or temple president, or whether he spent so much time in Prabhupada's room. No, that has nothing to do with it, because practically we see from practical experience, we often meet new devotees who have a deeper understanding, deeper faith, and deeper realization than many devotees who had constant personal association with Srila Prabhupada. Even though one may remain constantly with the spiritual master, unless one hears submissively from the spiritual master, he will not understand things as they are, even though he remains constantly with the spiritual master. This is directly from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Every day when we recite the Samsara prayers, and I know our good friend Nila Shyama Prabhu has quoted that many times, Praptasya Kalyana Guna Ararnavasya. The spiritual master receives the mercy from the spiritual world, from his connection with Krishna. The bona fide spiritual master, the fully realized spiritual master, the Paramahamsa spiritual master, not the show bottle spiritual master who came out from a Mahabhagavat factory or a Paramamsa assembly line. What will your nonsense rubber stamp do? That's why we see all this compromised preaching. They call it bridge preaching. I call it nonsense preaching. Why can't you just preach the way Prabhupada taught us? Why? Because of that personal motivation disease. You got your seat, all of those who were voted in by the Mahabhagavat factory of the GBC and their Paramamsa assembly line and their rubber stamp factory. You will never understand Krishna consciousness and Prabhupada's teachings from that nonsense process. Where did Srila Prabhupada ever describe that you become an Acharya by vote or by election? What is this nonsense? As a matter of fact, there are several statements in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that Prabhupada did not agree with this. He did not agree with the election process of the post-1937 Gaudiya Math. He says it was not authorized. It was not bona fide. Prabhupada said in one letter in 1969, there is no record of our Guru Maharaj ever appointing any Acharya after him. And this is the point that many of us have made many times to these godbrothers or so-called godbrothers. Where is the record of your so-called appointment? Why did you lie to the devotees? Why did you misrepresent Prabhupada's statements? Why? Again, the original intention is simply position and power. From my own personal experience, I've spoken to devotees who have spoken to some of these original 11, for lack of a better term, how some members of these original 11 were already scheming and planning to put Vyasasanas in Prabhupada's temples in August of 1977, while Srila Prabhupada was still on his departure bed. Scheming and planning. We know of one devotee who spoke to the late secretary, another flamboyant sannyasi based in Mayapur, where they told him, we're going to divide the world in 11 zones, and we want you to take one of these zones in Japan. He was so disgusted, he told him, Prabhupada is sitting there, and you're already thinking of dividing his assets? You're already thinking of stealing his properties? He was totally disgusted, and he walked away from these nonsense people. Do not be victimized by the false propaganda of these people. Take shelter of Srila Prabhupada in his original books. Follow the process. Chant, worship Tulsi, hear Srimad Bhagavatam, associate with simple devotees. Do not be victimized by the bogus, nonsensical lies, falsehoods, and fabrications of these deviants and sahajiyas posing as so-called gurus. Oh, people will say, who do you think you are to speak like that? I'm a nobody. But I'll tell you that somebody who spoke like that was Srila Prabhupada. In Hawaii in 1974, we're on a morning walk with Srila Prabhupada quoted a verse from the Hari Bhakti Vilas. Guravo Bahavo Shanti Shishya Vittapaharakaha. Prabhupada says in the Padma Purana, there's a verse between Lord Shiva and Parvati, where Lord Shiva is telling Parvati, my dear Devi, there are many gurus who are very expert to steal the wealth of the disciple. Durlabho Sadguru Devi Shishya Santa Paharaka. But it is very rare to find a guru who can take away the miseries of the disciple. Such a person is Srila Prabhupada. Do not be fooled and victimized by the post-1977 pretenders and self-appointed gurus of the LJEP, the Living Guru Experimental Project. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hari Bo.
To whom it may concern.
Glories to Srila Prabhupada. Wonderful, completely wonderful explanation based on Shastra, on Shruta, truth. The Vedas are truths. Like Prabhupada used the example, CIF, cash including freight. This Shruta, in business you use Shruta. So our God brother has very concisely explained the truth in a short talk this morning. Perfect. And it's interesting to note, Prabhu, Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, I was watching a video of one of our God brothers, speaking from Srimad Bhagavatam. And I sent the class he was giving on Srimad Bhagavatam to Romeshwar. And I said, totally bogus. That was my comment to Romeshwar. This is totally bogus. This person was an esteemed member of our society. He used to just sell. He was a good salesman. He was selling books, lots of them, hundreds of thousands of books. But he's speaking on Bhagavatam and talking about going around in a circle. This is a truth, but not explaining where the truth is coming from. It's coming from Krishna via media, the spiritual master, the Vani incarnation of Srila Prabhupada. Please, everyone, when you don't hear that, you should know they're motivated for profit, adoration, and distinction, or make disciples. And like Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu quoted, and for profit, because if you make a disciple, say you have 1,000 disciples, and out of the 1,000 disciples, 100 are multimillionaires through inheritance or whatever. And then when they begin to die, they want to bequeath their money to their guru, because the guru is as good as God. So all of a sudden, these gurus become multimillionaires. It's a big business. It's called the guru business. You want to go into business? Pretend you're a guru. That's what they're doing. You want to go into business? Get disciples and use the philosophy, distort the philosophy to indoctrinate these people to believe you're as good as God and then get all their money. This is the guru business. And are we happy about that? We don't care. It's their business, not Krishna's business. It's not the business of the Sankirtan movement of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And I wanted to go, we could carry on with that, but I wanted to go to the Gita verse today. I thought it was very interesting because Prabhupada made it struck me, this comment. Now he's explaining the knowable, both the soul and the super soul. By knowledge of the knower, both the soul and the super soul, one can relish the nectar of life. Nectar of life. It's like also Prabhupada referred to the four regulated principles as the principles of freedom. Now someone would say, well, how could you say that when I can't have sex, I can't take intoxication, I like to gamble, and I like to eat meat? Many comments from various people who heard these rules and said, this is impossible for me to follow. But they're the principles of freedom because they elevate you off the animal platform of existence. And you start to think clearly, what is the purpose of human life? The principles of freedom, that you can elevate yourself off the body, like that we all think we're the body. It's a mistake. We don't recognize that we are spirit soul because we have no vijnanam, practical realization. But by following these principles and participating in the process of devotional service, you become liberated even while you're in the confines of this body. Yes, in other words, it's possible to be free from the misidentification with the body as the self. Think about it. You have coconut. Prabhupada gives this example in the Srimad Bhagavatam. of coconut in the shell. So when you separate the coconut pulp from the shell, this is the same example he used for the living entity that's in the body but not of the body, separated. Like Prabhupada was in the body, but he was not part of the material circumstance. It's simply an instrument for giving information of the transcendental reality that he gave to us from Lord Krishna himself. And reading these purports, when I read the purport earlier, Rochisha Devi Dasi, in preparation for the class, I was thinking, Prabhupada's so kind to us, because really, you can read the verse, but without his explanation, do you know what Krishna is saying? No. And if you're listening to other people that are preaching philosophy, Mayavadi, they're misinterpreting it. The God brothers of ours that are in the ISKCON group, they're misinterpreting it, and they're justifying it on the basis of their own personal motives. Yes, the false ego is operating on the material platform and is very powerful. So, you can live in this world, you can be free from the miseries of life. Is it possible? Yes. And Prabhupada set the perfect example for us. If you look at the last days that he was here with his manifested presence with us, it was a tragedy. For me, anyway. It was hard for me to believe it. I can remember being in Toronto at the new building. Prabhupada had already been there, and I was getting news that Prabhupada was not feeling well. Okay. But I never imagined Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu that he would leave. I said, this is not possible. I still remember when I got the phone call that Prabhupada had departed. I can remember, and I'm not trying to be Sahajya, the tears shot out of my eyes, just like waterfalls. It was terrible. I couldn't believe it. I thought, this is not possible. And they had covered up the message that they wanted all of us to come to Vrindavan, because these people that were surrounding him were motivated by their own personal material desires to go into the guru business. I won't further discuss that right now because Yaśoda spoke so nicely. But I sat in the GBC room after Prabhupada's departure. I was the first, I'm sorry for saying but I was the first non-GBC member to be allowed to sit in the GBC meetings in Mayapur in 1978, because I was the chairman of the temple presidents for the world. I was voted by our peers, whatever, but that was the privilege that I was given, to be able to hear them speak and see their nonsense behavior and then relate it to the other presidents, because they were trying to quell the disturbance that they were creating between the temple presidents and the GBC, who were trying to take over everything. Oh yeah. Now you can say whatever you want. You were not there, whoever Mr. Bhakta you are, Mr. Neophyte. You can say whatever you want. You were not there. I was. And we're sharing this for you, for all of you, so you get a proper understanding of the historical facts that have gone down since Prabhupada's departure from our world, and the stealing of his legacy by self-motivated, foolish individuals who will pay a price. Oh, yes. And it's happening right in front of your eyes. You just have to see it and not try to deny it. And don't be indoctrinated by their garbage philosophy. That's why we're so strong in speaking out, everyone. Because some people, our group, have to tell the truth and protect the legacy. protect the Sampradaya. Is that serious? To destroy the Sampradaya? There's another section, I sent it over. We'll go to it tomorrow because I want to move further into our discussions. But I have an interesting conversation between Prabhupada and someone interviewing him. And we'll show it on the screen tomorrow. And Prabhupada says in the discussion that Bhaktisiddhanta never appointed an Acharya. In the end, he wanted a GBC that would work together and cooperate and carry on with the mission. But these people in the Gaudiya Math, each individual took over the individual mats and set up their own cults, and people go to them. Oh, they're great souls. They're great spiritual masters. Follow them. And Prabhupada explains about Tirtha Maharaj in this letter tomorrow. We'll read it. The deviant behavior of him. What to speak of the deviant behavior of these neophyte devotees that tried to become guru after Prabhupada's manifested presence, him leaving us. And you know what happened? They wrote a bio, called the Leela Amrita. There's 7 volumes. I've got the set at my ashram in Hamilton. And I'm looking them over. There's some information there. Let's face it. They spent time interviewing all kinds of devotees and gathering facts. But it was misrepresented by someone who was not qualified, not even an inch of qualification to write this biography. And Prabhupada never authorized it. And we're going to go to this section of our program where we're reading the review of the unauthorized biography of Srila Prabhupada by Yaśodā-nanda and his team. And we'll be producing this book in the coming future to dispel the illusion that Prabhupada was an ordinary man, which is what they are saying. He's an ordinary person. You rascals, do not do that. You'll go to hell along with your disciples. Fools, number 1. Yaśodā-nandana, please go ahead.
So we are continuing our review of the Lilamrita, the so-called alleged biography of Srila Prabhupada. We are in section number 3, page number 4. Prabhupada quotes from Ishopanishad, any commentary which contradicts the principles of the Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam is unauthorized. From Sri Ishopanishad, page 31. The Lilamrita describes His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada paradoxically in the following 5 separate ways. 1. It says that he is a Nitya Siddha, but then describe his supposed symptoms as those of a conditioned soul, printing a review which says as much. 2. It says that he was fully dependent on Krishna, but then describe his alleged dependence on Mayavadis, Karmis, disciples, and even inanimate matter. 3. It says that he took complete shelter of Krishna, but then describes him to be insecure, vulnerable, directionless, and confused. 4. It says that was inspired to write by Krishna, but then describes him as being a writer on the strength of his so-called psychological nature. 5. It says that he saw himself as moved by the will of Krishna, but then described that he was forced by circumstances at times. The author has entitled his book the Lilamrita, the eternal nectar of Leela. However, Srila Prabhupada writes, when there is enforced acceptance for suffering, it is not a pastime. From Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 26, Text 9. Let's go into further details of these 5 points. 1. Nitya Siddha, but the Lilamrita prints a review of His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada's life as being a very human story. Then it's a quote from Review of Lilamrita by Professor Hopkins, printed as forward to volume 2, page. While we find no fault with Professor Hopkins, we don't know why ISKCON would ever publish statements like that. It is a very human story with a very human A.C. Bhaktivedanta at the center. Then another quote, I invite the reader to enjoy the very real human life story of Srila Prabhupada, who is known in this volume as Abhay Charan. Lilamrita, Book 1, Introduction, page 11 or 19 in Roman numerals by author. However, Srila Prabhupada writes, Narada Muni, Haridas Thakur, and similar acharyas, especially empowered to broadcast the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, cannot be brought down to the material platform. Therefore, it is strictly forbidden to think that the acharya is an ordinary human being, Guru Shu Naramati. This is from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 7, Text 14. Srila Prabhupada then explains from Canto 8, Chapter 24, Text 46. Excuse me. Such a person may appear to be an ordinary human being, but because he acts on behalf of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is not to be neglected as ordinary. Then from Antya-lila of Chaitanya Charitamrita, Chapter 5, Text 71, one is forbidden to accept the Guru's spiritual master as an ordinary human being. A spiritually advanced person who acts with authority as the spiritual master speaks as the Supreme Personality of Godhead dictates within, that it is not he who is personally speaking. When a pure devotee or spiritual master speaks, what he says should be accepted as having been directly spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the Parampara system. Then we have a statement from the Nectar of Devotion, page 59. Maniruddhava, the spiritual master must be accepted not only as my representative, but as my very self. He must never be considered on the same level with an ordinary human being. Then Srila Prabhupada explains in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 7, Text 21, therefore, Srimad Bhagavatam advises Acharya Mam Vijaniyan Navaminena Karichit Namartya Buddhya Suyeta. The Acharya should always be offered respectful obeisances. One should never envy the Acharya, considering him an ordinary human being. Then Srila Prabhupada explains in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 20, Text 13, one should not treat the spiritual master as an ordinary human being, for he is the substitute for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Lilamrita refers to the bona fide spiritual master Srila Prabhupada as Abhay. The authors of the Lilamrita are initiated disciples of Srila Prabhupada, but unfortunately, they have the boldness to refer to their guru as Abhay. It is no wonder that the readers of this book consider Srila Prabhupada as a very human story. His Divine Grace always referred to his spiritual master, His Divine Grace, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj, in these exalted terms, even when he referred to a pastime of his spiritual master as a 6-month-old child. And to be continued tomorrow morning when we will resume our speaking for the Srimad Bhagavatam. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
It's interesting to note, Prabhu, that they take this philosophy that you just read and the position of the guru, and they use it to indoctrinate their disciples, these ISKCON gurus. When you say that the guru is as good as God, that's a serious statement. When you manipulate it for personal ambition based on the guru business, this is called brainwashing. That's what you're doing. You're brainwashing your disciples. And so much so that if we go to a temple and they see us, they call us, there's a Ritvik. There's a Ritvik. Watch out for him. You'll get damaged. Oh yeah. That's because you're nefarious. You're a guru in the guru business, and you're creating this strife and struggle amongst devotees who are dedicating their lives to the propagation of the holy name, the chanting of Hare Krishna. And we'll move forward with the discussion. I just wanted to mention about this Professor Hopkins. See what happened? He reads the biography and he calls it, yes, it's a very human story. That's exactly what they did wrong. They misrepresented it, and even these professors misunderstood because they don't know either. Misled by these people like Satsrup. Yes, this crazy man. This is not good. This is not good for him. This is not good for his followers. And this is not good for humanity. Very sad. And we'll fight against that. We're going to move forward with our discussions. I think, is Dharma Bhavana here? I can't see on my screen. Is he?
No, Prabhu, he's not here.
Okay, Ram Raghava. Why don't you report the attendance and any questions online?
Okay. There are three questions. One, Nilesh Prabhu is asking in the text, please explain the similarities of current guru election and Pope's election, Aroha Pantha and Avaroha Pantha. Then on YouTube live stream, there were up to 15 people at one time. Right now there's 8. One, Sihan is asking, is there a bona fide version of the database? If yes, where is it? And then there's a Prabhu named Charu Chaitanya Prabhu, who is saying, Prabhu, please come visit us in ISKCON Bangalore. We are trying to follow Prabhupada's teachings and have Prabhupada in the center.
Okay, very nice. From ISKCON Bangalore, isn't there a big temple there? I think there is. Somebody got, in India, they have a whole different setup. Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, maybe you could respond to the question. Give it again. Your mic's off.
Which question would you like first?
The first one?
Okay, that was Nilesh Prabhu is asking, please explain the similarities of current guru election and Pope's election, Aroha Pantha and Avaroha Pantha.
Okay, Yaśodā?
That's two questions. Which one would you like to deal with?
Well, go first second. Just do first.
First of all, the system of voting in the Catholic Church, we don't subscribe to that. As a matter of fact, in 1977, I had a very personal experience in Prabhupada's room where 2 senior disciples, the late secretary and another sannyasi from Mayapur, were besides Prabhupada's bed. And Prabhupada requested them, please do not turn my movement like the Catholic Church or the Gaudiya Math. And we do know that Prabhupada, throughout his teachings, was not very fond of this idea of voting heads of spiritual institution or heads of spiritual life. This is not what Prabhupada taught. As a matter of fact, let me just back up here a little bit. When we study the historical lives of Bhaktivedanta Thakur, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and Srila Prabhupada, there's no record anywhere of them appointing an individual successor or a group of successor, especially Bhaktivedanta Thakur and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. They left instruction to manage, to work cooperatively, to preach together, to carry on the mission. But they did not put much importance about who would carry on throwing the bananas into the fire, or who would carry the formalities of initiation. This stems in India from the caste Brahmanism monopoly disease. And what we have in our movement, that same disease migrated to some neophytes posing as Paramamsa. That's why I use the term Mahabhagavata factory and Paramamsa assembly line. In other words, this voting is not very conducive. But people may say, well, Prabhupada nominated a GBC. They had the power to vote. Yeah, you can vote for such organizational things, not the head of a spiritual institution. You can't vote somebody to the highest level of spiritual purity. It doesn't work that way. Now, you can invent some interpretation that you were appointed. You can manufacture some word jugglery interpretation. There's a saying in French, l'habit ne fait pas le moine. Moine means a monk. L'habit means the dress. The dress doesn't make the monk. So this is so evident in our movement. As for the similarities, I don't know their system of voting. They have a conclave where they vote the Pope and then there's a white smoke. ISKCON did a very similar thing in 1978 at Mayapur in March of 78. When we started in Vrindavan, there was a lot of devotees, sannyasis, prajimna, Guru Kripa, Gurukul teachers, all kinds of devotees visiting from America and Europe. After the Mayapur festival in 1978, the same question kept being discussed. What happened? Why are they putting Vyasasanas? What are these typos? What's a zonal acharya? Who invented this voting idea? What is these new pranam mantras that they're saying? What does that mean when somebody claims that they're the material and spiritual successors? All these questions were being brought up. When Prajimna wrote a letter in August of 1978, then all hell broke loose. There was accusations that he was in Maya, that he was a deviant, that he was a rascal, that he was polluted, and escalated to the point where he was kicked out of ISKCON. His service of translating the Bhagavatam was stolen from him because he didn't agree to the exact concoction of guru election. When this was brought up directly to members of the GBC in August of 1978 in Vrindavan, where did Prabhupada, in the last few months of his manifested presence, discuss or say anything of what you people are doing? Vyasasanas, pranam mantras, guru pujas, pictures on the altar, zonal acharyas, material and spiritual, all of these nonsense. We ask, where did Prabhupada ever say any of this? The only reply from the late secretary was, Prabhupada told us to manage, and that's what we've decided. Well, you may decide whatever you want. Did Prabhupada decide that? Did Prabhupada introduce that? Did Prabhupada tell all the temple presidents and all the devotees that you were appointed as his successors? But what was interesting is afterwards, the criticism escalated to threats of beating, threats of assassination. In other words, if somebody is not living spiritual life and living the truth, factually, he will engage in nonsensical behavior, guaranteed. And that we saw ourselves in 1978. We saw that directly. That's why I keep saying, do not be victimized by false propaganda. Regarding the second point, this Arohapanta and Avarohapanta, this is mentioned in the Upanishad. One is the process of mental speculation. Another one is the bona fide process of hearing in disciplic succession. This is, I don't know if somebody can display that quote from Upanishad. You can look at the word Panta, P-A-N-T-H-A, in the PrabhupadaBooks.com, Ramaragava. See if you can pick it up. But anyway, the point is, we follow the process. Here we go. Is Prabhupada's own statement. Now we are discussing instruction of Narada to his disciple Vyasadeva. Such a learned scholar, Vyasadeva, he's known as Veda Vyasa, the authority on all Vedic literature. And he's supposed to be incarnation of Narayana. exalted position. Still, he requires the instruction of a spiritual master. That is the way, a Vedic way, of Arohapanta. Arohapanta. Arohapanta means inductive process. To know from here, from the lower status to the higher status. Speculative method or ascending process. And Avarohapanta is deductive process, getting knowledge from higher authorities. So our Vedic understanding is to receive knowledge from the authorities. That is perfect knowledge. So I think it's pretty self-evident what Srila Prabhupada is speaking here. Very nice. Very good question, by the way. Thank you. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Nilesh, did you want to comment further? Or are you there? Are you behind the wheel or?
Hare Krishna. I'm in Prabhupada village, Prabhuji. So I don't have much
very nice.
reception. Yes, in North Carolina. So thank you for clearing all these points about the GBC electing gurus. So I think is that there's a lot of similarity between this and how the Pope is elected and how Avaropanta and Arohapanta gets correlated. Because if we are clear that we are in the process of Arohapanta, Avarohapanta, which is descending knowledge, that the order has to come from a higher spiritual authority down for you to be nominated or to be ordered to become the next guru. So somebody who is at a lower spiritual platform cannot choose somebody to be on a higher spiritual platform and give them the authority to become Diksha Gurus and continue with this process, which they call as Parampara system. So can you please elaborate a little bit on that point and how these things are correlated?
Just as a side note, I'd like to add that in the conclave in the Catholic Church, they do have that system where all the cardinals get together and they're shut in a room and they have to have more than 2/3 of the majority of the votes to become elected as the Pope.
I find the topic very interesting because our movement, the whole way that this was done in 1978, is still shrouded in secrecy. At least the Catholic Church knows that a certain number of individuals, cardinals, are designated. They go into a specific place at a specific time, in a specific location, and they discuss. They call it the conclave, and then they have their voting. So it's known what they're doing. In our movement in 1978, what did they do? In other words, my question is, what took place between November 14th, 1977, and March 27th, 1978, when they announced that they had been appointed? In other words, there was no public discussion with devotees. There was no public discussion with the temple presidents. There was no public discussion with the senior devotees, the Sankirtan leaders, the sannyasis. This was a secret process where they were scheming and planning while Prabhupada was there in his room in Vrindavan, how they were going to take over the movement, put Vyasasanas in the temple and divide the zones. And we know this from the direct testimony of some devotees who spoke to some of these leaders, who directly spoke with them. I know there's a devotee who met one guru who used to be based in Berkeley, California, USA. And at one point in early 1980s, he was violently sick and he almost died. And at that point in time, he admitted that the GBC, that not the entire GBC, the original 11, before they went back to their zones in 1978, after the Mayapur festival, that the leader, the author of the so-called Lilamrita, convened all these original 11, and they had secret discussion how they were going to answer the devotees to explain how they had been appointed, because they knew they had not been appointed as Diksha Gurus. They knew it was a fabrication. They were not satisfied just to do this on behalf of Prabhupada. This was only meant as a service to the society. It was not meant as a position. It was never given as a position of Acharya or Diksha Guru. It was simply a continuation of what had been going on before when Prabhupada was with us. And they manufactured their interpretation. So what did they do? They invented so many what I call vexatious, this is a legal term which means frivolous arguments. And then they started their propaganda. Why didn't they start to initiate on November 15th? Why? Because they knew very well they couldn't prove they had been appointed. Where did they go to get advice in 1978? Who did they seek advice from? What did Srila Prabhupada say about this particular advisor and his role in the breakdown of the post-1977, 1937 Gaudiya Math? Why did you go there? What is the proof and the evidence that Prabhupada told you to go there and ask him these questions? No one has been able to produce any record of this because it doesn't exist. It's a fabrication. At least the Catholic Church has a process that people can say, yeah, they met together, they voted, okay. That's their system. In our movement, Prabhupada did not invent such a system. He did not give such a system. The only thing he told them, he chose 11 representatives to initiate on his behalf. And that's when they invented this idea. Guru is dead, you need a living guru. Oh, really? Let me educate the few members of the GBC who are still living. In August of 1976 in Bombay, India, Gopal Krishna Chutananda and Yasomati-nandana had a conversation with Srila Prabhupada, where Prabhupada was explaining the breakdown of the Gaudiya Math. Why this Gaudiya Math failed? Prabhupada says, because they tried to become more than guru. Prabhupada said, before he departed, he spoke so many things. He never said this man should be the next Acharya. At the end of the conversation, there's a very interesting statement where Prabhupada said, as soon as he learns that Guru Maharaj is dead, now I can kill Guru, and then he becomes Guru. Now, you can't see this from the transcript. In the audio tape, for about 8 to 10 seconds, there's a silence. Then Prabhupada said, then he's finished. The minute these people disobeyed Prabhupada's instruction to keep acting as Ritvik representative, they were finished. That's why we see all these scandals, fall down, secrecy, all the nonsense, the political nonsense. Because these men have deviated from Srila Prabhupada's order. They disobeyed the instruction of the Acharya. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Send this to some of them. Somebody send this to some of these GBCs.
We will. Thank you very much. And by the way, we will be covering this subject tomorrow in our Srimad Bhagavatam class. I've already sent the documents to Ram Raghava so that we can display them. How Prabhupada would understood the situation with Tirtha Maharaj in the GBC after the disappearance of Bhaktisiddhanta, His Divine Grace, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada, and how he wanted his mission to be maintained and managed after his departure. And we find that ISKCON has become Gaudiya Math Part 2, and we'll go over that tomorrow. And it's interesting to note, you mentioned about secrecy. Yes, it's true. And I'll give you a practical example, Vijaya Pandit. When I was in Mayapur, I was being approached by different new gurus, let's say, these 11 gurus, different people. When I was in the meeting, I saw this Keith Ham fellow sitting by himself in the room. I was sitting between Bhagavan and Bhavananda. They both had sannyas clothes on at that time, presenting themselves as renunciants. Of course, now they're both, one is not married, but he's gay, and the other one is married with dogs and family members and all kinds of things. So things have changed, yes. But it was quite the experience to be there and see that. And there was secrecy. That's why we were all complaining. Why are you people keeping everything secret from the temple presidents who were the ones that were recruiting new members and running the centers, and you were doing nothing? You did nothing. Gopal Krishna never went on Sankirtan, just so you know. He never sold one. He may have feigned some kind of service. He was a guy that was a pencil pusher talker. He used to run our bill up on the phone, and Yasoda's a witness to that, to $2,000 a month, and we would have to pay for that idiot to speak nonsense and do nothing. Oh yeah. And there's a lot behind that. Why I would dare to say that in front of his disciples, so-called disciples. Secrecy. Not only secrecy, everyone, and part of that secrecy is this: cover up. Why do you cover things up? Because you're hiding. That's what they do. All these people have committed. Look at this Giriraj fellow. He committed all these mistakes. Okay, everybody makes a mistake. But nobody knows what's happened. It's all cover up. Bhakti Vigyan, Bhakti Vidyapurna, Radhanath, Harikesh, all cover up. And there's a huge history. There's volumes of books on it and passages. You can study them. We're not here just to bring it up. You can read it on your own. It's a way to understand secrecy. This is the game. And that goes on in all organizations where they cover everything up. So, Vijay Pandit, you want to make a comment, please?
Well, Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yeah.
It's just an answer that I got from a devotee lady after I sent her, because I'm preaching here in Italy, strong too, and she sent me a message, and you can understand from the message which she sent what I'm preaching, and she told me, you know very well that then people lose faith altogether if I go on to preach like this. She's meaning.
Yeah.
Try to think about what Prabhupada would say about this propaganda you are doing. Oh, I know what Prabhupada will say. So, although it may be right to make a case, what does the preaching gain from your propaganda?
Okay, let me say this.
Yes.
There'll always be comments from neophytes. That's okay. That's fair. Because they don't know anyway. For example, and here's a godbrother. I put a post up on Facebook yesterday. I saw the comment. Oh, it's good to hear about the history of the Gaudiya Math. It's this passage we'll read tomorrow. But still the holy name is being propagated all over the world. Yes, and I want to write to him and say, but these people are Sahajiya. You don't understand that because you don't read the books, Prabhu. You don't chant your rounds. I know that he doesn't. He's admitted it. And you think that you know? Knowledge is not simply memorization. It's vijnanam. Jnanam vijnanam. You have realization because you're part of the process, the bona fide process of Krishna consciousness through understanding Vani Vapu. There is no other way. There is no other way. And everybody that starts to preach without mentioning Prabhupada is still alive, still present, and still initiating. They are in Maya. This girl is in a neophyte making a comment from a neophyte platform, and she has no idea, no experience of what this philosophy that Prabhupada propagated for us is. Sentimental garbage. Yaśodā-nandana, if you want to finish off.
One thing is, what kind of preaching are they doing? What is that preaching? Why are you changing the words and books of the Acharya? That's the first point. When you preach, you can't invent a new philosophy. This was Prabhupada's complaint about the Gaudiya Math, that they disobeyed the instruction of their guru. It was well known that Prabhupada said many times, don't change my books, don't manufacture, don't change, don't invent, as it is. Why did they change the books? Why did they change the Bhagavad-gītā? The change was going on while Prabhupada was with us. They started to re-edit his first edition books while he was with us. And in 1977, on June 22nd, 1977, when he found out they were changing the book, it says the next printing again should be the original way. Did they ever do that? No. They kept changing more and more. Why? Because of political motivation. Why they are changing? Who authorized all these changes? They said, well, Prabhupada authorized such and such editor. Well, that's nice. You do your editing. Why did you change the original first edition books? I'm not talking about the covers or the index or the Sanskrit diacritics or the glossary. I'm talking about Prabhupada's purports, the word for word, the text. Don't change that. Prabhupada never authorized anybody to change his books. This is a disease, the change disease. So if they claim they're following Prabhupada, first you disobey Prabhupada. You can't disobey Prabhupada and simultaneously claim that you follow Prabhupada. And why did you get rid of so many of Prabhupada's disciples? Kick so many of them out? As a matter of fact, one of these men said in Vrindavan, let Prabhupada's disciples all leave. We've got our own disciples now. He was laughing. Ah, ha, ha. This is the mentality of the cabal, the deep state of that GBC of ISKCON. They didn't care for Prabhupada's instructions. They didn't care for Prabhupada's disciples. They didn't care for the sanctity of his teachings. They just wanted to take over his properties and take out their trampolines and jump on a big seat. That's not following Prabhupada. And the same nonsense is still going on. They're still putting pictures on the altar. They're still concocting so many nonsense ways of kirtan, still changing the books, still changing so many things that Prabhupada has given. They still not rectified their nonsense, crazy, deviant behaviors. But they sure have become very expert at the 3 Ps, posing, posturing, and pretending. Just stop the nonsense. Whoever is that person that made these comments, she does not know history. She does not know the philosophy. You can do all the chanting you want. If you disobey the instruction of the spiritual master, it will simply be offense. Maryada. Send her over here. Tell her to come on this program and show her face and ask these questions. That's what I'd like to see. Tell this person an invitation. Tell her to show her face on this program and ask these questions directly. You'll see what a kind of reply. Why is it that the GBC of ISKCON in 1986 put back a sexual predator and sexual deviant who had molested children and so many? They put him back as an Acharya. Is that following Srila Prabhupada? Is that following his teachings? Is that following the disciplic succession? They have no shame. These people should be avoided. They're sahajiyas. Let me give you a quote from Prabhupada you can give to this woman. In the Prabhupada Conversation book, she can look it up. Prabhupada says that his Guru Maharaj, His Divine Grace Srila Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada used to say, when our men would become sahajiya, they will become more dangerous, unquote. This is what we're facing, a wave, worldwide wave of sahajiyas. Why don't they come here and answer these questions? Why did you allow so many sexual predators to molest children and cover up for them? Why didn't you discuss these issues right in 1978 when it counted? Why did you avoid the discussion? Why did you kick out so many of Prabhupada's disciples who brought up these topics? Let that woman answer these questions. We'll see what she has to say. If she has any brain, any substance, let her show her face. Let her come on this program, show her face, just like everybody here. Let's see what she has to say. Is she blind? You know, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, there is a verse, Uluke Nadeki Nasurya Rakiran. The owl cannot see the sun in the daytime. So those who are owlish persons who don't hear from the Acharya, they're like the owl. They can't see, even though it's right in front of them. Right in front of them. I'll leave it at that for now. Thank you very much.
Well, Prabhu, it's obvious. When you're indoctrinated, you're brainwashed. That's what it is. And it's a disease of indoctrination that people misunderstand things. And I apologize, we're going to end up the program, but it's interesting in the chat here how we're discussing about an initiation that took place in Los Angeles last week of 30 people. Now this is almost gave me an upset stomach just to see that someone, that 30 somewhat sincere people took initiation from Radhanath. And there have been comments made about it. But how is it that this goes on? It's cover-up. This person is a conspiracy. He was part of the conspiracy to murder Sulochan, Radhanath. We have evidence, direct evidence of the link between him, the money, that is, his fingerprints were found on the money that was given to Tirtha to go to Vrindavan and hide. And they went and hid at the Goshala, there where Drupada Prabhu, my godbrother, was the head of the Goshala. And Radhanath's a part of this conspiracy to murder Sulochan, and now he's making disciples. This is revolting. But this is the material world. This is the Kali Yuga. Hypocrisy, quarrel remain supreme, not the truth from Srila Prabhupada and the message that he delivered from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that everyone should chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you, everyone, for this lively conversation with all of us. And we'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow. And we'll carry on, Nilesh, with the discussion without question. I've got some things to put up already tomorrow to give us more insight directly from our spiritual master. So please make a point to tune in and be a part. If you missed the class or you're watching it on YouTube or you're going to the channel, that's also just as good. We're happy that you're tuning in to the truth. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to the Sankirtan movement. Let's move forward with the Kirtan with Srila Prabhupada. It's 9:57 here in Mexico. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Let us offer our respectful obeisances to all the assembled Vaishnava devotees. Vanchakalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaham. I offer my respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord who can fulfill the desires of everyone, just like desire trees, and are full of compassion for the fallen souls. Thanks everybody for participating in this lively reading and discussion. Vishwakarma Prabhu in Yautepec, Mexico, Rochisa Devi Mataji in la belle province de Quebec, Vijay Pandit in Douaeville, Italy, Krishna Kata in San Diego, California, Ram Raghava Prabhu managing the program from Brighton, Georgia, Rupa Goswami Prabhu from Bombay, India, Bhakta Ran Singh from Oroville, California, Bhakting Amber from Texas, Sriloka Vijay from Alachua, Florida, and everybody participating in this program. Thank you very much. We invite you to come tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock a.m. from Srimad Bhagavatam, corresponding to 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern USA and wherever in the world you are. And please follow us on our website, on our Facebook page, and we invite everybody to listen to the next few minutes for a wonderful kirtan with some Jamaican devotees. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,